Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting with me, Annie. It's the 14th of November and this is episode 3, so thank you very much for joining me if you're a new viewer. If you've seen the other episodes, welcome back. I hope that I'm producing content that you enjoy. It's a pretty dreary day here today again, so I've got the lights on and we're in lockdown in the UK, so there's not much to do outside currently, which is why I'm definitely getting the crafting in at the moment. Usually my husband and I would be going climbing at our local climbing gym 2 or 3 times a week, but as lockdown means that they've had to shut, we're stuck indoors at the moment, going for daily walks and things like that. Just a couple of bits of admin first of all. So on Ravelry you can find me as ankiwoo. On Instagram you can find me as cinnamonswirl.designs. At some point I might change all of those usernames to keep them in line with my podcast, but at the moment that's what I'm called. If you do like this video, please like and subscribe, and comment down below if you want to give me any feedback. I'm definitely still learning at this and I hope that I'll get better gradually. So without further ado, let's start with, I suppose, the elephant in the room. So finished objects. And as you can see, I am now the proud owner of my throwback cardigan. This is the Throwback by Andrea Mowry and it looks absolutely gorgeous on the camera actually. And this is knit in West Yorkshire Spinners Croft. So there's the Croft colours and the red is the Belmont colour. The orange is Melby, the green is Feltar, and the tweedy version is actually a tweed Aran that's also in the Croft range, and that's called Eswick, and it's kind of speckled blue and green over the top of the white there. I finished this the other day. So the construction, to give you a bit of an idea, is that you start top down, you go back and forth, so all of this colour work is done knit one way and then purl the other, and I found that actually really slow but not too difficult. So the purling isn't too bad, but I was dropping the colours as I was going, so I possibly need to learn a better technique for that. And then you knit all the way down, so it's just a plain body. There's a double brim at the bottom which is in rib, and then you pick up the collar and you knit down into the button bands, although this doesn't actually have buttons on it in the pattern. I am considering doing something like getting a shawl pin so that I can cross it over a bit and hold it tight, just because it is a little bit loose, although it is a great cardigan for what I wanted it for, which is just literally chuck on when I'm feeling a bit cold. This wool is super warm and I really like this. So it's, yeah, West Yorkshire Spinners, in association with Jameson and Smith apparently. It's 100% Shetland wool, 166 metres for 100 grams, so it's an Aran weight. And I used, I think, 4 or 5 skeins of the Belmont colour. I actually almost ran out of yarn. I thought I was going to when I was knitting the button bands. Personally, if I was to knit this again, I would say that I would make it a tad longer. It's kind of at hip length, so I tend to like my cardigans quite long, but as I was running out of yarn anyway, I'm pleased that I didn't make it longer because I literally would have done. But we'll see. It's if I knit another one. Yeah, the button bands need a bit of blocking. What you do is you actually wash the main bulk of the sweater and then add on the button bands afterwards. So you can see they're curling a little bit. I think I need to just block them again and pin them out so that they're flat. But yeah, overall I really like it. It's quite a loose jumper on me, I would say. There you go, that's a lovely view of the colour work. But yeah, I absolutely love the colour work. It is stunning, and I'm really happy with the colours I chose. They were actually inspired by someone else on Ravelry, so I didn't choose them myself. I just borrowed some ideas from someone else, but really happy with the way that it's turned out. So that's my only finished object this week, so that works for what I'm wearing and also what I've finished. But I'll move on to works in progress. So my first work in progress is one that I showed on the podcast last week. I've done a little bit more knitting. Obviously I really wanted to finish my cardigan off as soon as I got to the sleeves, so I just went for it over the last 2 weeks to get it done. So I haven't done a huge amount of other knitting, but I'll show you what I have done. So this is the lighter shawl by Simone Carritt, and I'm knitting this out of the white with the speckles is Primrose Yarn Co. in the Sassy Pants base, and I'll show you the cake because it's actually absolutely beautiful. And this is essentially a brioche shawl, but it's got these garter stripes as well mixed in. So you can see there I've done the garter section, and I did make a bit of a mistake. I missed a row of the blue at the start, so it meant that I haven't got quite as good a seam into the brioche afterwards. So I've got a white speckled line instead, but I don't think anyone's going to know, are they? So I'll leave that as it is. I did have a bit of trouble kind of counting all of the stitches and things, so I messed up a couple of times. I wasn't paying attention and had to go back. But I'm now on the brioche section. So it starts off with a brioche rib, and then after that you go into some detail, and I'll pop a picture just here so that you can see what the final result will look like. I learnt brioche earlier this year whilst in lockdown in March and April, and I find it really meditative actually, because it's not just knitting a row and then knitting another row. You kind of have an idea in your head as you're going of almost a rhythm. So the way that I think of it is I go, okay, knit, yarn over, knit two together, slip, yarn over, knit two together, and I get that kind of rhythm in my head. And I think that really helps with this sort of meditative element, because suddenly I've finished a row and I go, oh, that was quick, but 10 minutes has gone by or 15 minutes has gone by. So I really recommend it if you're wanting to learn something new and you're a knitter. Probably not for beginner knitters, I would say, but definitely a nice thing to have in your knitting arsenal. So at the moment I've just started one of the increase rows, so the main pattern section with the increases will actually be with the speckled colour, and I'm hoping it will look really beautiful. It already looks beautiful actually, even if it was just brioche rib. It looks so nice. And the joy with brioche knitting is that you actually get a double-sided look for it. So this side you'll have the kind of white colour with the speckles as the main colour that stands out the most, and then on the inside you'll see, ooh, there you go, that the main kind of outstanding colour is the blue. The garter section looks different on this side. Yeah, so I'm really happy with my progress on that. I'm hoping to just fly through the brioche because I do enjoy it so much, but the kind of increase decrease sections are actually a little bit more fiddly, so you have to really pay attention to where you're going to increase or decrease as you go. I am knitting this on 3.25mm needles. I tend to have to go down in needle size because I knit very loosely, especially on metal needles. These are higher sharps that I'm using, the interchangeable set. Okay, I didn't mention the blue colour is Madeline Tosh Work Sock, and this lovely Arctic colour, which is a super bright royal blue, and I think offsets really nicely with the lighter speckle. So yeah, really looking forward to having that one done and just happy to knit on it all the time. I almost didn't go to bed last night and just carried on because I was enjoying the brioche so much. So let's try not to do that every night. I think that might be dangerous. The second work in progress that I'm going to show you is actually not quite a work in progress yet. So I mentioned last week that I'm planning on knitting the Owls sweater by Kate Davies for my best friend for Christmas, and that it's been kind of an ongoing plan for a couple of years, but I hadn't quite got the yarn yet. So what I've done so far is I've done a gauge swatch. So I'll hold this up for you. There you go. So there's a couple of owls. So I tend to knit a gauge swatch with the pattern, so it's just a cabled pattern, but it makes this kind of owl texture, and I'm going to add buttons like the pattern shows, and I am knitting this in Drops Nepal mix in the colour 8912, and that's this kind of pinky colour with little bits of creamy gold, I think. So this was the kind of colour that my friend wanted. This is 65% wool and 35% alpaca, and I'm going to be knitting this one on 5.5mm needles, and the reason that is that I'm using an Aran weight yarn, and the pattern calls for a bulky. So what I'm going to do is go down needle sizes, so down to 5.5mm instead of 6.5, but also I am going to knit a larger size to kind of manage the gauge, because at the moment I'm getting 18 stitches in 10 centimeters and the pattern calls for 13 stitches. So what I'll do is go up a few sizes. I think I'm going to the largest size because my gauge is very different, and make sure that the Aran yarn isn't too loose so that it looks really gappy, because as it's a finer yarn it will kind of produce more gaps if you knit it on a larger needle. So I hope that will work. I'm going to attempt it later and then I'll let you know in the next podcast if I've managed it okay. And I use something really handy, which is just this Addy needle gauge and gauge swatch measurer. So it's just got 10 centimeters in the middle, and it's really nice and easy to just lay it on a swatch like this and count how many stitches you've got each way. Let's turn it the other way around so that you can see the owl. There you go. So yeah, fingers crossed that works. Fingers crossed it also fits her. We'll see. Once again, flying by the seat of my pants a little bit and trying something out without having the person in front of me to try it on, but we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping to really enjoy knitting the sweater as well, and at the end result she'll have something awesome to wear. She's a lover of owls, which is why I picked it out for her a couple of years ago, so it'll be really nice to see her wearing it over the winter. Next I'm going to talk a bit about weaving and what I've got on the loom at the moment. So I mentioned last time and showed you some fabric that I'd woven because I'm planning on making some bags, some little zip bags for my family for Christmas. And what I'm doing now is just going through and making some more fabric. So just different patterns to try things out and just use up some leftovers as well. So I'll try and show you my loom here. There you go. So this is just a stripe pattern, and what I've gone for is a white base, which is Schoppel Wolle Starke 6. And then I'm using leftovers from my Jupiter crop. So I've got Dererum Natura in the quartz colour, which is the light pink, Tempête, which is the dark blue, and Confiture de Rose, which is the brighter pink. You can see it does mute it slightly, having that white warp and the colourful weft. So I'm hoping just to do a bit more of that, create a reasonable amount of fabric, probably enough to produce a tote bag, and then I will sew that into a zip bag for a member of my family. I haven't yet decided what colours I'm going to give who and what patterns I'm going to give who, but we'll see what happens when I've got a few bits of fabric to choose from, and then I will have a go at actually sewing with my woven fabric, which I've never done before. I'm going to watch a few videos by Kelly Casanova. She's quite a famous YouTuber in the weaving world. She does a lot of really good tutorials on different types of weave and also on what to use your fabric for. So I'll be doing that soon, I hope, because it's not that long until Christmas. Let's see how I get on, and I'll feed back another time. You'll either see a fairly botched attempt at something, or you'll see a beautifully executed thing, depending on how it goes. But yeah, I'll be getting my sewing machine out shortly. On the subject of things that I'm making, I just wanted to show you something else that I've been doing. So I mentioned I go climbing normally at a climbing centre nearby, and when we're climbing we have little bags for our climbing chalk that we carry on our harnesses to kind of use as we go up. And recently I saw that a company called Edelrid, who produce a lot of safety equipment, ropes and harnesses, were offering something new, and they're very kind of on their green initiative at the moment. They have produced the first fully recycled rope recently. They also produce ropes that use up all of the leftovers from other ropes, which is great, I think, instead of producing a lot of waste. And I saw that they created a kit for a kind of a DIY bespoke chalk bag. And this is all from kind of offcuts of bits of fabric that they've got left over and bits of rope and stuff like that. So ultimately I'm going to end up with a nice chalk bag that I've made. I'll post a picture of their version here so that you can see what I'm aiming for. But you get all of these colours and things, and you can cut out a design that you want and then sew it onto your bag. And what I've done is got the inspiration from my husband, who said, oh, why don't you do a climber on a wall with lots of holes? And this is the result. So hoping you see that okay. I'll stick it in front of my face. So what I've done is I've printed off a silhouette of a climber from Google Images, and cut it out, and then cut out the fabric in that shape, and popped a couple of different colours on there to make it look like that climber is climbing a red wall. And then I've also thought I'd add a little bit of design to this side, so I just cut out some triangles in the same size of all three different colours that I had, and sewn them on. And this is all hand sewn except for the outline of the climbing wall here. So I spent a lot of time just hand sewing my little climber and my triangles to the base of the chalk bag, to then make it into that chalk bag hopefully later today. I'll obviously show you the end result in a couple of weeks as well. I'm really looking forward to having that, and I think it's a great idea from a company that produces climbing gear to kind of offer this type of thing. So I haven't done much sewing in my lifetime, to be honest. I used to have sewing lessons when I was really young at school, and I'm not great at hand sewing because I haven't done it for so long, but I think it's been okay. A little bit wobbly, especially on the triangles. I think it could have been neater, but I think that adds to the fact that it's handmade. I'm really pleased with how I did my climber. It seemed like an impossible feat to begin with to actually make it look good, but I think I'm really happy with that. Let's see how the end result turns out. You get a whole load of different things, so internal lining and, like I said, bits of rope to add to the outside and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to having that and hoping that I can use it in December rather than waiting longer until the lockdown eases. And finally, I just want to show you one acquisition this week. So I took the opportunity to purchase some yarn from the sale at the Knitting Shed, which is a company that I've seen over the last couple of years at Unravel in Farnham, which is a yarn festival. And I saw that they were having a sale, so I thought, you know what, I've been trying to get some of this yarn for a long time, and every time I see them at Unravel I go, oh, the yarn's beautiful, but I don't have a reason to buy any at the moment. So I jumped in the deep end. I thought, I need something to cheer me up. We're in lockdown. This is the type of thing that makes me happy, so I'll go for it. I got a few colours, but the yarn that they had on sale was the Slubby 4-ply, which is a tweedy yarn. So they threw in a couple of minis, which I was really pleased to see. Let me put that in front of my face. So yeah, this is just one of the grey minis, and this one's a pink one. But I'll show you the colours that I got in the box, and you'll just look at it and go, oh, how predictable. These are the colours. Aren't they beautiful? So I got two greys because, like I mentioned in my colour video, grey is always a good neutral to have, so whatever you put it with, it will tend to offset nicely if you're doing colour work or if you're just adding a contrast stripe or anything like that. So I got two greys, and they are called Lime Mortar if you want the colour. I got this gorgeous blue, and this is Bilberry. Again, I mentioned that blue is something that I tend to add as a bit of a neutral. I got Ginger Snap. Oh, look at that. Isn't that a glorious colour? See all of the variation as well. Just love that. And then I got this one, which is called Hybrid Tea, and that's also lovely. It's really nice, and it's really nicely plied actually. It's a twisted ply. It's 85% merino and 15% viscose for the neps, the tweedy neps. But I love the colours, and I really liked the idea of making something with some tweedy yarn at some stage. I'm not sure what these are going to be, whether they're going to stay together in one project or be separated out into different ones, but I'm super excited to plan something lovely to knit with that yarn. So that's everything that I've been making that's fibre or yarn related at the moment. Like I said, please like and subscribe if you liked this video, and do go back and watch my other ones if you're interested. I'm hoping to do a bi-weekly podcast, and then the weeks in between I'll be filming other videos. So if you have any ideas, just pop them in the comments below. I'd be really interested to see what people are excited to find out about, or what kind of tutorials you'd like or you think are missing. I'm definitely going to be doing one on mirror knitting, and also something on my favourite yarn or craft tools to go through. That's it from me. Have fun with your crafting and enjoy your time spent indoors doing the things that you love. Thanks very much. Bye.